Welcome to the Roberts Law Office Injury Podcast. Kentucky attorney Jeff Roberts has over 25 years of experience. He'll provide answers to your questions related to personal injury and automobile accidents, workers' compensation claims, and Social Security disability benefits. Let's join Jeff for this episode. And friends, welcome back. We're once again in Murray, down here in Callaway County, with attorney Jeff Roberts. Jeff, how are you?
Doing good, Jim. How are you?
Buddy, I'm doing well. So here we are. We're recording this in late July, but getting ready for early August when this is going to come out. And obviously, we're kind of in that back to school period.
Exactly.
So, you've done a great job over the years of releasing these, what we call public service announcements, these PSAs on different types of situations. Today, we're going to talk about school bus awareness, because obviously there's a change in the law that we want to talk about.
Correct.
And also some safe driving tips for people that are out there driving around the kiddos, and the new traffic patterns and all the different things that are going on that we haven't had to deal with in the last couple of months.
Correct. Yeah, there is a new law that's taken effect, actually took effect July 15th. Yep. It was passed this past legislative session that made some changes to who has to stop when a school bus is stopped with its emergency lights on, where it is stopping to pick up or drop off kids in that regard, and who has to stop in that situation. The old law, as I understood it, was if you were on a 2-lane road, everybody had to stop.
Right. So the bus comes to a stop, the little flashing light comes out, everybody has to stop.
Yeah, so the arm comes out on the front, everybody's got to come to a complete stop. And you need to, if it starts yellow, because they'll have, when they start slowing down, the yellow lights will come on, and then red light when they come to a complete stop. But if you're coming up and the yellow lights are flashing, prepare to stop and come to a stop in that situation. And so if it was a 2-lane road, everybody had to stop. If you were going the same direction as the school bus or the opposite direction of the school bus. 3-lane road was the exact same. So if you had a center turn lane,
right,
everybody still had to stop. Going both directions, people had to stop. But the law before was, if it was a 4-lane road, then the people going the opposite direction of the school bus did not have to stop. Both lanes going the same direction had to stop. But if you were going the opposite direction, prior to July 15th of 2026, then you did not have to stop in that setting. That's one of the major changes.
And that's regardless of whether there was a median or anything else. If it was 4 lanes, 2 going this way, 2 going the other way, you didn't have to stop.
That's the way I understood the old law. That's the old law. Now, the new law, one of the change in the new law is if you're on a 4-lane road that does not have a physical barrier between the 2 lanes, or have an unpaved median or grass median,
right,
then you have to stop. So, like here in Callaway County, we have Highway 641 that goes through the middle of the city, and that road is a 4-lane road with a center turn lane. That's a paved center turn lane. So, and there are homes off of that road, and if you're traveling down that road and there is a school bus stopped on 641, I don't know if they stop on it or not, but if there is one stopped on 641, you have to come to a complete stop now.
Regardless of whether you're in the same direction, opposite direction, you have to stop.
Correct. You have to stop. Everybody has to stop. If you're going the opposite direction in the far right-hand lane in the opposite direction, you've got to come to a complete stop at this point. If you're in the turn lane, you've got to come to a complete stop. Everybody has to come to a complete stop. Now, if you go further out on 641, out of the town, out of the city where it's got a grass median that separates, so with that grass median, you do not have to stop in that setting. I don't know of any communities around here that have the concrete barriers.
Right.
I'm in Louisville a lot, and a lot of the roads up there do have those, and I'm sure everyone around here has seen them when they've been traveling. But
it's like going down the interstate. Sometimes you've got
correct. Yeah, a lot of the interstates you have those concrete barriers between the 2 lanes, or the 2 travel lanes in that regard. And if the road has that type of concrete barrier between the 2 travel lanes, then the people on the other side going opposite direction of the school bus, they don't have to stop because there's that physical barrier there.
Okay. So I guess the rule of thumb is if there's a physical barrier, a grass ditch, some other type of obstruction between the two directions of traffic, you don't have to stop. All other cases, you need to come to a full stop.
Yeah, if it's a paved turn lane or just or if it's just a paved area in between, like a shoulder tap, but there's no grass median there, then you have to come to a complete stop.
Yeah, I think that's going to take a lot of people by surprise, but it's really for the safety of the kiddos.
Exactly.
That's the thing. I mean, you go back to those days and, they're thinking about getting home. They're thinking about doing other things. And the last thing they're thinking about is, looking both ways for cars. I mean, people are just excited to get home.
Correct. And kids, when they are, when they get home, they may see, they may have a neighbor on the other side that they see, and they just, their home's on the same side the school bus is, but they can dart across to the other lane very quickly. And if you're not paying close attention, or depending on what they're wearing, if they're running in the front of the school bus, if their clothes matches, you may not see them until they've come out, and it's too late at that point. So I think it's going to take a little getting used to, for sure. Clearly the intent here was to protect the children and to avoid any kids being hit, which is a good thing. That's something that the legislature and everybody in Kentucky should be supportive of. In that regard, there's been, in my lifetime, in my career, I've seen way too many kids that have been hit by cars when they were either getting on or getting off of a school bus.
Right. And there's a related bill that I think also passed that had something to do with the cameras that they may be installing on the school buses, right?
It was the same bill.
Okay.
It's a different statute number, but it was the same bill that had the language on the stop arm, the stopping for the vehicles, but they passed a law as well that the school buses can put cameras on them. They can have a camera and they can actually have dual cameras, is what the law says, that one pointing one direction, one pointing the other direction, so that if someone does run, it will trigger and take a picture, and should get a picture of the license plate of the vehicle and a picture of the front of the vehicle, so hopefully get a picture of the driver from that standpoint, so that, the way it has been for a long time is you essentially, a police officer almost had to see who the driver was, or had to see the violation occur so they could stop the driver in that situation. You'd have times where the bus driver would be able to get a license plate number, but it's hard to tell who was driving in that setting unless they got a good look at the driver or knew who the driver was from prior interactions or something. So it was hard to stop repeat violators. And I know there's been times where the school bus driver said this person is repeatedly doing this, and the police set up for that very purpose because someone is repeatedly running the stop arm and not stopping like they should. So they passed this law to where they can put the cameras on there and use that for a citation of the driver. Now, and the way the law is written is if they cannot identify the driver, then the owner of the vehicle gets the ticket.
Right.
And the owner one of the defenses is, I was not driving, but if you offer that defense, you have to identify who was driving. And I believe, I'm fairly comfortable, it says you sign an affidavit of who was driving in that situation to be able for you to get out of that ticket. I'm all for safety. That's getting a little over into, I'm also somewhat of a civil liberty person, and that's getting a little further. I don't have a problem with the cameras taking the pictures and correcting it. I do have a problem with I'm guilty until I prove myself innocent.
That makes
sense.
Of the law. Yeah, so, that makes a lot of sense. But, again, coming back to now there's an enforcement mechanism that could be actually on the school bus itself.
Correct.
May help this. And I think in the early months, as this is really kind of taking effect and people are getting used to it,
maybe there's going to be a few citations going out. But again, it's for the safety of these kiddos. And I think that's the ultimate goal for all of us.
That's the ultimate goal for everyone from that standpoint. Nobody wants to see children get hit by a vehicle, whether it's getting on or off a school bus or in any other situation from that standpoint. So it's a good law in that regard, and it will take some getting used to. The penalties are for this new law as well. It's $300 for the first offense.
Wow.
Of a stop arm violation, and then it bumps up to $500 for any subsequent offense in that regard. So,
wow. So, I mean, they're putting some teeth behind it.
Yes.
Okay. Well, and friends, if you follow Jeff's podcast for a while now, you notice that back in episode 58, we did an episode on pedestrian accidents and bicycle accidents, and that's kind of related to our topic today because, again, pedestrian accidents would be a student or a kiddo, unfortunately, getting involved in a collision, a hit and run, or even just another collision with a car that actually does stop.
Right.
You're going to have kids that are going to be darting out between cars, and as you said, maybe they see a neighbor across the street. They're not thinking right now, but if you want to go back and listen to Jeff's take and his approach on dealing with pedestrian accidents, that's episode 58. And if you go back to his website, if you go back to jeffrobertslaw.com, there's a media tab and a podcast tab. You can find all of those there. They're also available on Spotify and other places. Yeah. Jeff, we've also talked in episode 47 specifically about school bus collisions and injuries.
Right.
And I think this is a slight deviation from the core topic that we're talking about, but it still involves school buses, so I thought we might reference it today. Where, what happens if your kiddo, if your child is involved or injured in a accident while they're on the school bus? Do you want to talk about this a little bit? There are a few things that people ought to know.
Yeah, I mean, if the school bus is involved in a collision and your child's on the school bus, then obviously, and they're injured from that collision, then certain things kick in at that point in time. One is, of course, obviously one of the concerns is, how seriously is my child injured? No parent wants to get the phone call that their child's been involved in any type of a motor vehicle collision. And so that's the first thing, is to have the child checked out medically. And, a lot of people are really concerned, they're living paycheck to paycheck, and they're very concerned about how am I going to pay the medical bills? I've got co-pays and deductibles on my insurance. If my child goes to the emergency room, how am I going to be able to pay the deductible aspect of that? And that's one of the benefits of Kentucky law. Kentucky has a no-fault portion to it. A lot of times Kentucky is referred to as a no-fault state, which technically is correct, but there's only a small portion of Kentucky's motor vehicle law that is no fault. But what that says is the vehicle you're in at the time of the collision is responsible for a minimum of $10,000, but the first $10,000 of medical and/or lost wages. From there, obviously, school kids probably aren't going to have lost wages, so it's going to be going toward medical from there. But then you can use that and have that to help take care of any medical bills that your child may have. One difference is if the kid is off the bus, and we talked about darting across, if they're struck by a vehicle when they're a pedestrian, then the vehicle that strikes them's PIP insurance is going to be the one that kicks in and pays that $10,000, not the school bus insurance in that situation. So you have that coverage there, and obviously, if your kid is injured in either of those scenarios, then you have the potential for the bodily injury claim as well against whoever is the at-fault driver, or if the other driver and the school bus driver both were at fault, then it could be against both drivers in that situation.
And the attorneys will figure out who's going to pay what in that regard. And obviously, if multiple students are injured, there's going to be multiple claims, things like that. So,
correct.
I guess the one of the things I take away from your comments is go ahead and get your kiddo checked out.
Right.
You want to know about an injury early because, again, they can get treatment and properly heal. But sometimes the kiddos don't know how to express, really, I'm just not feeling good, or maybe it hurts here or something like that. You don't really know the severity.
Well, that's true. And then right after, kids are just like adults. Right after the collision,
good point.
There is the adrenaline running through their body just like it does an adult afterwards. Frequently, when you have that adrenaline running through you, you're not really focusing on what's hurting in that. And then when that clears out of your system later on that night or maybe the next day, then you notice the pain there. So, having it, making sure your child is checked out. If they're telling you that point that day, I'm not hurting, I'm fine, you want to check them out. Probably still a good idea to maybe take them to an urgent care or something of that nature. But if some people think, well, I didn't go the day of and the next day I started hurting, but it's too late. That's not too late in that. It's standard, frankly. Most I've rarely see an insurance company argue over somebody delaying in seeking medical treatment for a week or 2 weeks after the collision. Now, if you go 3 months, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
But if you're having problems, get in to see the doctors and let the doctors know my child was in this bus wreck yesterday or 2 days ago, and she or he started having some problems since then, and we just wanted to get in and get her checked. So you make sure you let them know about the accident being the cause of it.
Yeah, because you want to have that noted in the medical record, because again, that could be evidence that you're going to use later in negotiating the claim, or if it were to go to trial.
Well, and it also helps with getting the insurance company to pay under the PIP, because if it doesn't identify the wreck as the cause, then the insurance company may say, "How do we know this is from the wreck?" And so, why should we pay PIP benefits toward this medical bill?
Could have been the playground, could have been backyard,
exactly.
Running around the neighborhood,
right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the other thing that we haven't really prepped for this at all, but
I like it when you throw things up.
Well, this is one you've dealt with before, I'm sure.
Right.
But it's the issue of a head injury. If your kiddo is saying, "Hey, my stomach hurts," that nausea is a symptom sometimes of a concussion.
Can be.
While that you might think, well, maybe they ate something, that could actually be something a little bit more serious.
Correct. And yes, it can be. There's a lot of different symptoms that can be associated with a closed head injury. So, a child or an adult can have a closed head injury without a loss of consciousness. A lot of people think you have to have a loss of consciousness to have a closed head injury, and that's not true from that standpoint. So, but there are different symptoms that can come into play there. You can have, as you talked about, nauseousness at times, loss of sense of smell or taste can be a symptom of that.
Blurry vision.
Vision issues can be. And not being able to, if you notice there's not focusing like they used to, those all can be kind of parts of that. And if you see your child having those issues, then it's good. Definitely need to get the child in to be seen by a medical professional.
We did a pretty extensive episode on traumatic brain injury, and we talked a little bit about the various symptomology that could come in, and sometimes it's a change in your demeanor, a change in your personality. That the individual may not recognize, but the family member definitely,
Absolutely.
This is just not normal, right? And alert your doctor, because a brain injury, it's a serious injury, and people don't really understand. Oh, I didn't realize they hit their head because they weren't bleeding.
Right.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you're talking about, a closed head injury. There really wasn't blood. There may have been a little bump or something like that.
Right.
But that's a serious situation, especially with a kiddo.
It can be, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff, one of the other episodes that we talked about, as we're talking about getting back to school, and we're talking about kind of preparing for that, because we haven't seen the school buses on the road for a while. We definitely probably haven't seen the kiddos, at least not in this volume, if you will. In episode 49, we talked about distracted and drowsy driving. And, sometimes if it's early morning and you're trying to get to work, or you're a student, or your kiddos, trying to get to school and they're driving, that's another risk. And this is a good time to really sit down and talk with your teenage drivers about, hey, look, if you're driving to school, be careful here, because again, you're going to have all these students, you're going to have a lot more people on the roadways and in the neighborhoods that maybe you haven't had all summer.
Right.
So again, it's another thing to think about. Do you want to talk just a little bit about drowsy driving and distracted driving? A lot of cell phone usage is usually the thing most of us think about.
Yes, that's what you hear a lot of, and unfortunately, there's a lot of wrecks caused by people on their cell phones, which you should not be, and it's against the law to do. It is a big problem It's resulted in a lot of accidents, resulted in deaths from that standpoint. And, if you are driving, make sure you're good and awake there. And, early morning, I'm not a morning person myself from there. And so, I'll get up and get a shower to wake me up and then get a couple cups of coffee in me and caffeine in me to get me awake before I come into the office in the morning. And if you are not a morning person and you've got a routine, follow that routine. If you are drowsy, do something to where you're not drowsy before you get behind the wheel. Don't use your cell phone. If you listen to radio or podcast, get that going before you get on the roadway so that you're not having to flip with the knobs and all there while you're driving down the roadway. And pay just, a big thing right now is to pay attention to these children on the road. They haven't been sitting out at the bus stops waiting for a school bus since school got out back in May. And so you're not used to seeing them. So pay attention. Keep your eyes open once school starts. It's going to be opening up for Callaway here in I think next couple of weeks, early August. I believe, I have the office in Hopkinsville as well. And in Christian County, I think it's around the 15th of the month of August when it's going to open up there. So these kids are going to be out on the roadways again in the morning and in the afternoons when the school buses are dropping them back off, and just kind of be a little extra cautious when you're driving. And parents, if you've got kids who are going to be driving to school now, and I remember when I was going driving to school, and me and my friends would switch out, and we'd take turns on who was driving. But there was usually 4 or 5 of us in the vehicle, and you get a bunch of teenage boys and teenage girls in the vehicle together with no other adult present. They're going to be cutting up and things of that nature, and that driver may not be paying as good of attention as they should. Have that conversation with your kids that are going to be driving to let them know. Fine for the passengers to be cutting up and joking, but you need to be paying attention to the roadway, need to be paying attention to what's in front of you. Look for the kids there. And at least some of the schools around here, you have high school and middle school that share a parking lot. So when they get to the parking lot, there could be kids around in that parking lot as well that they have to be keeping an eye out for.
Yeah. We've talked so much about trying to reacclimate, the drivers. We also need to reacclimate the kiddos. And so parents, you've probably done a great job, raising the kiddo to say, hey, look, stop and look both ways and don't cross the street. But again, they're awful distracted, especially early mornings when nobody's thinking, and then late afternoon when they're just excited to kind of get back and maybe get a snack or something. You really need to sit down and work with your kiddos on that and really train them up.
Yeah, you need to remind the kids. You should have already trained them in that regard, but remind them of that. And the kids are going to say, I know, Mom, I know. And that's fine. I would rather hear, I know, Mom, and them remember it when they get out there by the school bus stop than not remember it and me not have reminded them, and then they step out in the roadway when they shouldn't.
Yeah, and that could be a very tragic situation to have to deal with.
Correct.
Jeff, you've handled pedestrian accidents over the years. You've practiced here in Murray. I mean, you've practiced in Callaway County for 33 years now?
33 years. Coming up on 34 soon.
Yeah, pretty soon. So, you've got the 2 offices, which is kind of interesting. So your primary office is right here in Murray.
Correct.
And you've got the other one up in Hopkinsville.
Correct.
You want to talk a little bit about that second office?
Yeah, it's I opened that office up a couple of years ago. As I've my entire career, I've had a lot of clients up in the Christian County area, Trigg County, Christian County, Hopkinsville, and even further away than that that I've had. And, I'd drive up there and meet them at a restaurant or something, or bar, or somebody else's law office to meet with clients, or they would drive down here to my office in Murray. And so I just decided that I would open up an office there so I could better serve those clients. One of my mottos, or not one of my motto at the office, is that we provide small town service and deliver big city results. And part of providing that small town service is me going to Hopkinsville to meet with the clients up there and better serve them in that area. I've got clients up in the Russellville, Bowling Green area, and that makes their drive a little shorter when we need to meet in person. A lot of things can be done over the phone or by video conference and through emails, but some things are just better dealt with in person.
In person, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
And you were over there on Virginia, South Virginia?
South Virginia Street. In Virginia Place is the not apartment complex, office complex.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then right here in Murray, you're just below the city square here, the town square here. So just a short walk to Rudy's, actually.
Yeah,
so.
a short walk to Rudy's. And I'm a regular up there. And
it's a good cheeseburger. It's a good cheeseburger.
It's not like Cheers. When I walk in, they don't holler Jeff like they did on Cheers with Norm. But yes, it's they got good food up there, and the people who work there are just excellent people.
That's fantastic. Now, Jeff, regardless of where I am in Kentucky, if I want to talk to you about a situation, because you can handle cases all over the place. You can go all the way to Eastern Kentucky for these types of cases.
Correct.
There's really only one phone number that they have to worry about, right?
Right. I like to have just one number. That way they always will reach a live person. From that standpoint, the office number is 270-753-0053. I'm in court a lot, or I'm in depositions and other things, so I may not be able to talk to you when you first call in. Most likely probably won't be able to talk to you when you first call in, but they'll get the information, and we'll see what we can do for you. If hopefully you haven't been involved in a car wreck, you don't have a child who's been injured in a car wreck or been injured. You haven't been injured on the job, but if you have and you have any questions, feel free to call. The initial consultations are always free from that, and then you can make the decision on what you want to do after that initial consultation.
Well, and that reminds me, you said also injured on the job. You do handle personal injury.
Correct.
You handle workers' compensation and Social Security disability. Not all that many attorneys here in Kentucky handle all three. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I handle all three of those, and personal injury runs the gambit from car wrecks, motorcycle wrecks, which is what a lot of people think about, premises liability,
dog bites,
nursing home neglect, things of that nature. I do handle all of those types of cases there, and along with the workers' comp and the Social Security disability. Those are administrative type cases, and there's not a lot of people who handle those types of cases, at least in Western Kentucky.
Okay. So, and like you said, the initial consultation is free, and you work on a contingency fee basis. Do you want to talk about that just a little bit? Yeah,
contingency fee basis means that my fee is contingent upon recovery. So if I'm not successful, you don't owe me a fee, and also don't owe me reimbursement of my expenses. And if I am successful, I get a percentage of the recovery that I obtain. You don't pay me anything at the start of the case. I get paid at the end of the case. When I put money in your pocket is when I get paid my attorney fee.
Yeah. Okay, well, fantastic. Jeff, once again, thanks for your time. And I'm glad we took time out of the normal cadence of podcasts to really talk about back to school issues. I mean, these are important things. I mean, you do things for motorcycle safety. We usually have an episode around Halloween that's very similar to this in nature, because you've got kiddos going everywhere jacked up on candy.
Yes.
So you've got that going on. And then definitely around school time.
Yeah.
This is just, I really appreciate the fact that you've been so committed over the years to doing these types of public service announcement style episodes.
Well, thank you. Frankly, I hope these help to stop somebody from getting injured.
Yeah. Well, friends, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. I hope you found the information helpful. You'll be able to find these on YouTube. You'll be able to find these podcasts on just Facebook channel. Just look for the Roberts Law Office on Facebook. His website is jeffrobertslaw.com. And then wherever you find your podcast, you'll probably find Jeff's podcast. So we'd appreciate it. And if you found this information helpful, especially the back to school editions, please share those out to your friends and family so they also get this important information. So Jeff will be back in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Roberts Law Office Injury Podcast. Jeff will return in 2 weeks. Until then, he invites you to visit jeffrobertslaw.com and follow his firm on Facebook. At the Roberts Law Office, you'll find a history of small town service and big city results.